Bitcoin hasn't even had its halving right now. We're heading into a recession. The whole crypto market is doomed. At least that's the narrative I'm reading and what everyone is telling me when they're saying that they're going to wait for lower prices in crypto. But I'm going to do things differently, and I'm buying in pretty much all in right now because of a few different factors. And I'm going to show you in this video exactly what I'm buying right now. As soon as you hit that like button, let's get into it. Now guys, something you need to understand in crypto markets. The narrative around it is total BS, in my opinion. There are obviously factors that have an impact on the price, but very few people have the ability to control the price, and there's very few people just managing the price right now. One other thing to consider, when everyone is waiting for something to happen, this is how many times it happens. When everyone's sat here waiting for Bitcoin to go to 100k, does this. Then it gets up here and they're like, oh, it's definitely going to go to 100k this time, does this. When everyone's down here and waiting for Bitcoin to go back down to these levels, typically it will do this. Now, I'm not saying for sure, for certain, that it's going to do this right now, but all you have to know, the prices of crypto across the board are lower than they've been in the past. Whether we're talking about Bitcoin, which has been at 69k and is currently sat at 25k, whether we're talking about anything else. This, for me, tells me that I've got one of two things I can do. I can weigh up my potential rewards versus my risks. Now, we're just going to use Bitcoin before we look at the other charts to understand a little bit about what's going on and where we could be heading. Now, in my opinion, we've broken towards the upside and we are literally just retesting a previous area of resistance, which is here. And if you look at it very calmly and collectively, we had a inverse head and shoulders, we bounced off, we broke through, we've retested it once, and in my opinion, we're going to retest it again. Literally, if you look at this line and look at what happened last time we were here, it did this. It rallied all the way up, 20%, 30%. Which was very big for other cryptos. And you can still see we're getting rejected here and everyone's like, oh, it's very bearish. I'm not saying for definite that we can't break down below, but in my opinion, we are going to be bouncing towards the upside. And because everyone's so negative out there, I become more positive. I do the opposite of what everyone is doing because it seems to be the obvious way to do things. I don't know for sure if I'm going to be right, but it seems to be the best thing to do. Now, simply guys, something we have to look at in terms of our risk versus reward, and I'm going to continue to use this Bitcoin. If I buy in, let's say $1,000 right now, and Bitcoin does this, my risk is a downside move of this. Now, depending on how much money I've got and depending on how much money I put in, my risk changes. If I put in all the money I've got in the world, then my risk is big. But if I put in money that I can afford to not look at for like a year or two, then my risk is very small, because the risk is Bitcoin going to zero. That is the only risk we're talking about. The risk of me sitting down 40%, or maybe even down if it got really, really terrible, like 70%, what's my risk? My risk is that, I have a bit of a red looking portfolio for a while. But if I imagine that Bitcoin's going to not go to zero, then that's the only risk I'm looking at. Zero is the only risk. As long as I'm not overexposing myself and I don't need the money I'm putting in the next year or two, then at some point in my belief that even if it does go all the way down here, it's going to bounce and be worth more than it is up there. So for example, if I go all in with like my $1,000 in this example, and Bitcoin goes all the way down here and then eventually comes back up here, then I still make my 162%. And obviously, in my opinion, Bitcoin will go beyond that in the future. I don't think necessarily way beyond that. I think it's potentially in the next few years going to be hitting around $80,000 to $100,000. That's very good news because it means I have very low risk to a pretty good reward ratio. Now, where things get really exciting is the coins that I'm looking at buying and have been buying recently. Now, using the scenario that we're talking about with Bitcoin, where I don't believe that Bitcoin is ever, or at least in the next 3 or 4 years, before it puts in another high at least, going to zero. I think it will put in another high before it would ever go to zero. Will it go to zero? Who knows? I don't, you don't, no one knows. Pretty confident that it's not going to though. So what else am I looking at? And why do I want to get on board with these other coins? Because I don't think they're going to go to zero either. Now, I am investing in coins right now that I think have a good chance of seeing some early growth and are not going to go to zero. It's as simple as that. because I don't know for sure whether we're not going to see a good dip down. Let's zoom into this HBar chart. HBar, you can see, if we look at this previous low, which was, before this sort of spike up area, that was sat down around 3 cents. So if we zoom in, and I think in worst case scenario, HBar goes back down to this level, down 34%. Down 34% for a year or two is my worst case scenario for HBar. Is it a bad thing? No. It just means I might have a red portfolio for a little bit. If I have some set aside and I can DCA in, then happy days. The best case scenario for HBar is it goes back up to all-time highs and beyond. It's 11x. 11x versus a 30% downside move. Yes, I can wait and get in a little bit cheaper, but you've got to question yourself. Are you just being greedy, trying to get in cheaper, anticipating that you're going to be able to get a better price? Here's a scenario for you with HBar. Let's have a look at where HBar is right now and think about what might happen in another scenario. Now, you've got a choice. Either you can be buying in right now, and I'm not saying you should be buying in because that would be financial advice, and this is not about that. This is what I'm doing and why I identify buy zones every time. I still think HBar has a little bit more to drop. We could get into this area here. If it does that, then I can continue to accumulate. But I want to tell you a scenario that is probably something you want to be avoiding. What if I wait for HBar to get down to this level, 3.5 cents, and it never happens, and HBar goes all the way up here? Well, what will probably happen in that scenario, if you weren't buying in at the dips, is you will see one day and you'll wake up and see a candle, much like this one here, where HBar moved in just a few days. This is a weekly chart, 140%. Now, what you'll tend to do is you will go, holy shit, I've missed it. But I haven't missed it because it's obviously going up. So I'm just going to continue because it can't help but continue going up. And you're going to buy all in, and then it's going to do this to you. And it's going to pull back 40%. But because you panic bought here, you'll panic sell here, and then HBar will continue up. Happens time and time again. I know this happens because I've done it, okay? I learned the hard way. The only calming way to get involved is to have a price point set where you want to buy in, and it's looking pretty good right now. And then you buy in. And there will be people who will tell you all the way up until HBar is pretty much worth about this much that we're still in a bear market. Bitcoin will get to 50, 60K and we're still going to be in a bear market. And then eventually they'll change their tune when it's at all-time highs. By that point, it's too late, because then you're just exit liquidity for the people who were smart enough to buy into all of the fear and all the guys being like, oh, we're going to wait for lower prices. You might get lower prices. Be very cautious of the situation you're going to put yourself in if you're missing out right now. Now, the reason I want to get into HBar, guys, is because I see 1, a good price, and 2, a good lot of community, 3, a huge narrative. There's lots of people getting involved, governing councils and all that stuff, that indicate to me that HBar is not going to go to 0. That's all you need to know right now. Is it good? Yeah, it's a great piece of kit. It's going to do well, but it's not going to go to 0. In my opinion, I could be wrong. So, who else is not going to go to 0 right now? Well, Kaspa has arrived during a pretty much brutal bear market. Yeah, it's been early on this year. It's been performing well. Bitcoin's been performing well. And now Kaspa is literally up there, top 100, like nearly almost top 50. Crazy. Gone to almost top 50 coin. It's only just launched more recently. Now, I did tell you the other day that it would perhaps see a cool off, and we have seen a very aggressive pump. I am already in Kaspa, and I will try and accumulate more if we get down to more better buy zone areas. Now, what I'm looking at is Kaspa, some people are saying, is in an area of accumulation, and you can see in the past that it did see accumulation here. Now, I'm not telling you that you wouldn't want to be buying in here, because it could be an area of accumulation, but really for me, I do see that this up here is a head and shoulders pattern. You can see a shoulder, another head, and a shoulder. This is quite bearish in the short term. So what I do is I take a price target from there, I drop it down, and lo and behold, it ends up in this area, which quite clearly is a buy zone. For me, if Kaspa gets down here, where we're going to see, 30% down, then happy days. If, however, you missed it in these areas up here, then I've told you before, you shouldn't be FOMOing in, you should be waiting for better opportunities. If you don't get the better opportunities for Kaspa, there's another coin, another day, don't worry about it, okay? So what? Maybe it pumps, maybe it has a good pullback. Kaspa's a good one. And that's because I don't believe Kaspa's going to go to 0 either. Quite clearly, it's having some good pushes in a time when not much is happening. Okay, so I don't get the fear of Kaspa going to zero. Another coin I don't think is going to go to zero is Solana, because even though Solana got down to just under $8 and you should have been accumulating it, and if you were subscribed to my channel, which you absolutely should be, then you would have been accumulating it along with me and you would have seen some good gains already this year. But Solana right now having a good dip. Solana survived through some of the bloodiest charts ever. Okay, crypto was in all sorts of pain. Solana was held by FTX. FTX dragged it down. It had various other failings. It got hacked, got all sorts of other things going on. But if you watch my Solana video, which I made yesterday, which is here, then you'll also understand why I'm so bullish on Solana right now. Heavily undervalued, under $20, a steal. In my opinion, right now you can see sideways action, buy zone. This is a buy zone because we've got good pushing out of here. Solana, you can see, is sat perfect. You know, what a day to be accumulating Solana. Obviously, don't invest without doing your own research. Go and understand it, whether you want to invest or not. You and I have different circumstances. We have different amounts of money. We have different responsibilities, okay? I'm not telling you to buy it. Do your own thing, okay? Don't care. I'm not here to wipe your tears away if you lose and come back crying. Next down the list, Quant. You know, guys, CBDCs, Quant's already working with the Bank of England, tons of stuff, and look at it. Couldn't be more perfectly set up in this little buy zone area here. See, it's been rallying out of here. Yeah, it could see a little further dip, but Quant for me looks very, very strong. What next? XRP. XRP rallied so aggressively, pulled all the way back down to this area where you could see that the big money was happy to buy it. Guys, it's really not rocket science right now. And I could be wrong, but I'm not wrong, because I'm not really saying to you one way or another exactly what you should be doing. I'm giving you a scenario. The scenario of being in and potentially risking yourself, looking at 30-50% down days where you can just accumulate more and drag your percentage average down. Or the other scenario is you don't buy, all of this stuff pumps like 3 or 4 or 5x, and you're just sat on the sidelines being like, oh, well, this guy told me that the bear market's on because of the recession. All that stuff does have a factor to play, but ultimately, guys, it's a few big money players who are just manipulating the price of Bitcoin and crypto in general, and they will drag you up and down, and they will drag the lemmings off the cliff. Don't be a lemming, okay? If everyone right now is telling you that the markets are going to go much, much lower, be very cautious, because typically they don't do that. They go the opposite way. There's a lot of good stuff coming up that could well drive crypto narratives. October the 10th, these are all the ETF schedules, okay? October the 10th, you've got Global X. October the 16th. Now, some of these have a good chance of getting approved. If one of these gets approved, it means for the market that eventually all of them will get approved. These are in October. Yeah, if everyone says September's always a red month, then it's usually not, okay? Everyone is usually wrong. Not everyone can be right. The smaller portion of people have to be right, okay? A smaller portion of people have the money. All the mass people don't have the money, so they don't know anything. Be on the side of the big money. Don't do the dumb money stuff. We want to be big money players, even if we've not got big money yet. Here, guys, Stock Money Lizards talks about Black Swan events, Mt. Gox, Bitfinex, COVID-19, FTX. Everyone's talking now about Binance having a Black Swan event. Couldn't it happen? Potentially. Who knows? Guys, this is what I'm saying. We've got great opportunities right now in the market. This is where bear markets and stuff happen. Everyone's telling you that it's not a thing. Everyone's telling you that it's going to go lower and lower. You have to do the opposite and be strong and do your due diligence. If it goes lower, it's down to you to do your due diligence and work out the next time at which you want to get in. But I guarantee you, at some point, if you're waiting for a lower price, that lower price will never happen. Let's say Bitcoin crashes to 10K. I guarantee you don't buy it at 10K, because it's going to be even more scary to buy than it is buying it at 25K. I hope that makes perfect sense to you. Now, I'm not telling you to buy this, guys, but the video today is sponsored by Grape. Link down below in the description. If you come across to their website, you'll get 10% additional tokens. Grape is the first Web3 infrastructure for a decentralized internet. It is working as an ecosystem specifically been designed for things like gaming and the metaverse, which I anticipate being huge in the next bull market. Currently, it's valued on Bitmart Exchange around $200, and the price over on here is $46, which means theoretically when it launches, the price is going to rocket up. So obviously there's a potential for great return on investment, but obviously it's crypto. Do your own research. Tons of information about it here. Coming down below, you can see up to 700,000 transactions per second. It uses AI to allow non-skilled, non-technical people to build directly onto their ecosystem. This is very, very exciting because it really boosts the overall functionality. There is tons of new stuff coming up on Grape all the time, and I'm very excited for all of these possibilities. Grape is now also creating loads and loads of information and documents about all of the new use cases and things for the Grape ecosystem. It's one of the most exciting launches I think that is happening this year, but do your own research, guys. It's linked down below in the description. 10% additional tokens if you use that link, if you want to buy Grape, of course. No pressure, up to you. It's your own decision. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, hit the like button for me. If you're new to the channel, I'd love to see you on the next video. So subscribe. Bye-bye.